Good afternoon, and a very, very warm welcome to everybody from all over the world to Camelot Castle TV. Now, of course, Camelot Castle is one of the most dynamic locations in the world at the moment. The numbers of people that are gathering here that have been following us on this particular TV channel, I have to say I cannot thank you out there, our supporters, enough for spreading the word and for sharing this broadcast, because we do not have a bed in the hotel free today, and the numbers of freedom fighters and people who are gathering here who really are in complete disagreement with some of the idiocy. Of course, we're joined by Sue Chippendale, who is here with us today. She is actually staying at Camelot Castle, and what a wonderful young lady she is. She is absolutely wonderful, and Sue, it's just so wonderful to have the freedom fighters here. Now, the reason I'm broadcasting today, and obviously we haven't been broadcasting for a while, and one of the reasons for that is we've really been trying to get to grips with the level of suppression that we have essentially run into as broadcasters and as communicators. And as many of you know, for many months we've been working on a completely new social media network. It's a social media network where we will own the servers, where we will control the hardware and the software thereof, so that it will be impossible. The servers will be in multiple locations in jurisdictions where it is. So that is what we are doing, and it's very, very exciting indeed. And the whole idea is to launch a completely independent network of communication lines that cannot be censored. Unfortunately, on this network we are limited by what we can say, tremendously limited by what we can say. I cannot talk about any medical matters, and I can't really get into too many political things, but I tell you where we can communicate, and that is on Telegram. And I would ask each and every one of you to subscribe to our Telegram network. Perhaps somebody could put that on the screen. Christine Rust is with us this evening. Good evening, Christine. Debbie Tolhurst is with us, and Rebecca Hicks is watching from Wisconsin in the USA. So our good friend Sasha Stone is actually doing a tour of America right now, and many of you will have picked up on that. But what I would ask all of you to do is to follow our Telegram channel. Now, we do have some good news, and that is that in the UK, it was announced. Now, here we're joined, of course, with from John Dalton, who is watching from Yorkshire. Bravo for championing freedom of speech and the search for truth. Well, that is really all we're doing, John, and you've been a great campaigner. I remember you were one of the first people that came to stay at Camelot Castle in 1999, and we sat at the round table, and at that time we didn't have social media, but we were leafleting. So we've been leafleteers, and you helped us mail out many leaflets on the subject of creativity, as I recall. Julie Carnell joins us. Jane Cole Marshall is with us. You know, the good news is that today, as I read in the Daily Telegraph, and many of you will have read this too, vaccine passports are not going ahead in the UK. And this is a tremendous, tremendous win. Now, whether I completely trust the report in the Telegraph or not, I don't know. It could just be a sort of a dummy pass. A friend of ours, Mike Yeadon, wrote to me and said, could this be a dummy pass? Could this just be an article designed to sort of get us to quieten down on the idea of vaccine passports? Julie Carnell said she marched for freedom on Saturday. There were 1 million people there. Sharon Bishop is joining us from Staunton in Virginia. Where are you all joining us from? And you know, now there is one thing that I think we should all do and try and do today, because it was a very successful action in the past. I would like everybody here to say a little prayer or make a positive wish for one of the other freedom fighters that they see on here today. And I think it's very, very important that we empower each other. You know, the simplicity of what we're doing here is very, very pure. All we're saying is the table was round for a reason. People in this world should be free to say what they're thinking. Now, isn't it startling that in 2021 here, at the birthplace of King Arthur, in England, I have been censored? Now, I'd be the first to admit that not everything that I've said is necessarily even true. I've always said that to you. Some of the stuff that I say may not be true. I've always suggested to you that you need to think for yourselves. But nothing that I've said in any way, shape or form is harmful in the context that you need to look at it for yourself. You need to think for yourself. And each and every one of you has every right out there to communicate your thoughts and your ideas and your feelings to anybody at any time. That is the fundamental of freedom. It's that I would say is super important, is that we pray for each other. So Portia Hadedanga is saying hello from Botswana. Portia, how are you? What is it like to live in Botswana? Are you free to say in Botswana what is on your mind? Sharon Bishop says, I decree and declare that the freedom fighters will win this battle of good and evil in the name of Jesus. Amen. And praise the Lord. That is incredible. Jackie Cormack says, hello from Greece. Jackie, what a pleasure it is to have you here. You see, one of the things is about a network. And, you know, we have a very, very interesting tool that we use here at Camelot Castle. And we have this idea, we actually did get this idea from Scientology, is that you always push power in the direction of the power upon whom you depend. And of course, we freedom fighters, not one of us can win this game on our own. We are a team, and we need to work as a team. We need to think as a team. And one of the reasons we do need to work as a team, one of the reasons Vega has joined us. How fantastic. Rob Agar. Zandra Hensigen says hello from Denmark. This is fantastic. Dillis Hughes says hello from Southern California. But one of the reasons we have to work as a team is because the enemy itself is very organized and they do work as a team. And what tends to happen with freedom fighters is they tend to individuate, they tend to go off on their own, and they tend to try to think that they can do things all on their own. And the sad thing is, of course, as we learned from Jesus and we learned from Muhammad and we learned from the Buddha, is that ultimately, when an individual operates on their own, they do get taken down by the establishment. And although Jesus, of course, rose again and he died for our sins, and this was a great, great gift to all of mankind, he did, of course, advise his disciples to work together. And this is one of the most important things that we can all do now, is to share. And what I would challenge each and every one of you to do, because it's getting to the point where the people that have large groups on the internet are being censored. You know, my YouTube channel was taken down, my Twitter account has been suspended, and, you know, fine, we had a large Twitter account. But you know what's even more powerful? Even more powerful than the large Twitter account is the private meetings that we hold here nearly every day. Because the real interchange occurs one-on-one between people. And look at this. Julia Galtic says, I've been learning a lot from the hymn of Asia. Absolutely right. Boho Dogan says, greetings from a tiny island off of Greece. What island is that? Debbie Meek says, hello from Amarillo in Texas. Is that the same as the road to Amarillo? Torben says hello. Antonio Pinheiro says hello. You see, and what I'd like each of you to do while you're listening to me this afternoon, we're on a bank holiday Monday here in England. There seem to be so many holidays in England at the moment. One doesn't know what to do. Is there ever a time to do any work? But We've got a bank holiday Monday now, and it is one of the most glorious days. In fact, I will show you how glorious it is, because here, out of the window, you can see, I don't know if you can actually see out there, maybe you can see out that window there. No, I don't think you can, sadly, but it is too bright. It's not quite catching the camera. No, I don't think you can see, sadly. The weather here is absolutely stunning. You can see actually, Caspian got a barbecue for his birthday, so he made us a barbecue today, and we all rather caught the sun. John Dalton says, well, he's actually quoting George Orwell, "In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." John Hart Dalton, or John, as we know each other. By the way, the harp here, John, needs a bit of a tune, so if you wouldn't mind. Wayne Abram says, red in the face. I am a bit red in the face because the sun has been shining and my dear son cooked us a barbecue. Gary Clark says, afternoon, John, from sunny Swindon. What is the weather like where you are? What is the weather like? Rose Lynn says, hello from North Florida. Helen Snowden says, hello from the Netherlands. That's fantastic. See, there we go. UK column taken off YouTube. Really? Really, YouTube? You've taken down UK column, a totally and utterly respectable news network? This is terrible. And what we need to do is all of us communicate. Telegram is a very good thing. Please subscribe, Camelot Castle TV network, and also please join the hive mind of Camelot Castle. Camelot Castle TV chat. I took it down for a while because people were being very rude on there about Scientology and so on and so forth. And they like to take the mickey out of that. But I thought, you know what? To be honest with you, you're free to say whatever you want to say about anything. And, you know, I don't have to agree with what you say about this and that. The whole point about Camelot Castle TV is, and our TV network, is we have to allow free speech to manifest. We have to allow free speech to manifest. Now, if any of you are going to be really horrible about and bigoted, well, then I may take it down again. But I mean, I honestly, the position I've taken now is, you know, we cannot be really attempting in any way, shape or form to censor anybody on any subject, because the price of censorship is just too high. And what it means is that those people that do control the main networks just get away with murder, literally. And it's not okay. So our salvation comes in communicating. And what I'd like to do, oh, thank you, Christine. Christine's just put up the Telegram network. Ashley Amanda says, hello from Hampshire. We're going to come up to sunny Hampshire. Nolmium, John Arena, keep up the good work. Very much enjoyed our stay at Camelot Castle last August. Fake book cancelled due to all the censorship. Yeah. Free speech needs to be defended. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So what I'd ask each and every one of you to do is create your own free speech network and invite your friends to it. And if you see something that you think they need to know about on any subject, share that information with them directly. I suggest you use Telegram. I suggest you use WhatsApp. Use whatever platform you can use, and you'll find the platforms that allow you to communicate freely. We have to get communication circulating. It is not right that people are having their suppression, their voices suppressed. And the other thing is as well, is where you do see a decent person, where you do see somebody trying to do the right thing, support that person, be clean towards that person, be respectful towards that person, and really try to empower them. And here's the rule, is always push power in the direction of the power upon whom you depend. And what you'll find is that if you do that, the amount of power that you are playing with, here we go. 30-day ban for sharing Mike Yeadon and Vernon Coleman. Well, Jill, you see, this is extraordinary. Lorraine Chen, thank you for always being supportive of freedom in the world. We have to be, Lorraine, don't we? We have to be supportive of freedom because, the truth of the matter is there are so many people out there. My grandfather, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but my grandfather signed up to fight in the First World War at the age of 14. He lied about his age so that he could go to the trenches in northern France and fight for our freedoms in this country. And whether he fully understood what he was doing, he was definitely one of the most patriotic men. Sadly, I never met him because at the age of 16 he got shrapnel in his lung and came home as an invalid and was invalided for his whole life. So he had a much shorter life than most people would, and he had terrible problems with his lungs thereafter, and he died in his 50s. Sadly, I never met him, but of course he gave birth to my mother, of course, who is staying with us. This is very interesting. John Harp Dalton says, now I'm going to read this to you. Not many of you know this, but Rudolf Steiner stayed at Camelot Castle. Now, Rudolf Steiner was a philosopher and really a religious leader. Definitely something. He launched something called anthroposophy. I forget what it is that he launched, but it's anthroposophy. I can't say it. I know what it is. He launched something called anthroposophy or something, and it was a spiritual philosophy. He was one of the first people to isolate the truth in relation to the human spirit. And here's what he said. Rudolf Steiner, who stayed here at Camelot Castle, said a century ago, "In the future they will eliminate the soul with medicine under the pretext of a healthy point of view. There will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible directly at birth. So in the future, children will be vaccinated with a substance that can be produced precisely in such a way that people, thanks to this vaccination, will be immune to being subjected to the madness of spiritual life. He would be extremely smart, but he would not develop a conscience. And that is the true goal of some materialistic circles." Wow. Rudolf Steiner wrote that a century ago. Wow. And of course he did some other great things. He did. You can read all about Rudolf Steiner. John, perhaps you could post up on there. What would be the best book for somebody that was interested in what Rudolf Steiner said? Where would they start with that? Very, very wise man. And of course he came and he stayed. Yes, he wrote that in 1920. 1920. He wrote that. That's extraordinary. And what would the best book be for somebody who wanted to research Rudolf Steiner? Hello from South Africa. I can't talk about. Some of you are posting up things in the comments. John Harp Dalton says there are biographies available, so that would be a good place to start. Thanks. John says he'll post some titles. That would be very helpful. Very, very helpful. Thank you so much. I'll put them up on the screen if you do. I'm just having my cup of coffee here. My dear wife has got me on a very special diet at the moment, which consists of raw garlic in the morning, and I'm not allowed milk in my coffee. I'm only allowed cream, because apparently on the keto diet, which is what I'm on, cream is good for you, but milk is not good for you because it converts into sugar too quickly. But there we go. Here we go. Gary Lachman, bassist with Blondie. How interesting. There we go. Look at this. Rita Anacarda. Rudolf Steiner was an Austrian philosopher, playwright, and an artist who lived between 1861 and 1925. He founded a spiritual movement called anthroposophy. I can't say that, I'm sorry. Which works on the basis that children's creative, spiritual, and moral dimensions need as much attention as their intellectual ones. Hannah Ken says she eats keto. That's a very good bio. And Boho Dogon says our consciousness is awaking, our true heritage of the stars and star knowledge. Well, I think you're absolutely right. I keep telling Elon Musk, who's become quite a good friend of ours, I keep telling Elon that he, to stop ranting on about Mars, but get busy with the stars. I said, the best Mars is going to be a refueling stop on the way to the stars. It's a dreadfully dull planet, but some of the fishing on some of the outer stars is absolutely spectacular. So I keep telling Elon to focus on faster than light travel, and I'm trying to remember how to do that again. Now, Ina Urquhart says Mark Devlin will be holding a mass meditation on the 6th of June at 6 p.m. He's using symbolism in the positive way that 666 is used to focus on freedom and truth and to change this madness. Well, I don't quite understand about all that, but Ina, you're a good person. If you think that's a good thing, then here we go. We've got to look at this. We've got a lot of students of Steiner on here. Rudolf Steiner, there you go. It's Rudolf Steiner Webb, the complete edition of his published works. Numbers over 330 volumes with surprisingly little repetition, making him among the most prolific authors of all time. Lux, that is very interesting. Who else on here knows a thing or two about Steiner? Sue Chippendale says Mark Devlin is doing a call for action, 6 p.m. on the 6th of June. Everyone around the world to meditate or pray for what we want or for the life we want. Wow. What a jolly good idea. Nothing wrong with a little bit of meditation. So the good news is today, no vaccine passports. And Jasoda Scott says Steiner was onto the radiation issue. Sue Chippendale says Steiner schools are amazing. A lot of support for old Rudolf Steiner. We do get a number of Steiner pilgrims coming here to Camelot Castle because they like to travel to the places that he travelled to, and he brought a group here to Tintagel and actually wrote about the hotel at one point. And so we feel somewhat connected to Steiner here. And of course he was a very... I always wanted to send my daughter there but could not afford it. Well, that's a shame. Now, but they are very good. Intermittent fasting, lovely to catch up. Moira, my wife is getting me onto the intermittent fasting next. You see, she believes that I am still a little bit fat, I'm afraid. And I suppose she's right. And my mother's staying at the moment as well. So they're teaming up and ganging up on me. And so I thought, wow, in Israel they're cancelling their green passport tomorrow. It was a complete nightmare. Well done, Israel. This is absolutely fantastic. My husband says, this is Steiner, I suppose. He created a school in Austria that supports the talents of the students rather than putting them all in the same uniform. Come visit us in Paros. Paros sounds fantastic. Is that in Greece? I would love to go to Paros. In fact, I'd love a bit of time in Greece. Founder of Weleda. What's he now? That's something else. I don't know what that is. I'm just really putting these links up. It's lovely to have you all on here. Where is each of you tuning in from all over the world? We've got several hundred people on the broadcast. Now, in fact, several thousand when I look across all the other networks. It's amazing to me. During the lockdown, we reached over 100 million people on Camelot Castle TV. Then, of course, the censors kicked in, and it got really rather hot and heavy. It's not a nice feeling to be censored. It does feel horrible spiritually. And, but I do thank each and every one of you support. Do please share this broadcast and get it out there and let people know what I like to try and tell people to do. Chris Ram says, Steiner really had something incredible to offer. I remember going around an art exhibition in East Grinstead, and you could see the change in each artist's work as they progressed through their studies. Less anger, more quality and aesthetic as time went by. Wow. Moira Horwood says IF takes you into a spiritual level. Rita Anna Carter says, I'm half Austrian and feel a connection to Rudolph. See, people do have these spiritual connections. Yes, near to Santorini, you are most welcome. We know all the hotels and places to stay, friends with everybody here. We're in the real area of Atlantis. They've found artifacts, even of unknown origin. I said, now, this is a question for everybody. This is a serious question. I'm probably going to be pilloried from one end to the other for saying this. Who here believes that Atlantis existed? Who here believes that Atlantis existed? For real, no joking, not mythological Atlantis, not in the TV show Atlantis. Do you believe that Atlantis existed? Rita Rankov says, my family came from Graz. That's in Austria, I know where Graz is. Yes. Andrea thinks that Atlantis existed. Boho Dugan says, yes, Plato. Well, she's Greek, obviously. And yes, Plato spoke of it. John Dalton said, I think it probably did. Yes. Well, John's obviously put some thought into that. Yes, I think it probably did. Oliver Humphreys says, yes. Hi, John from Bolton. I want to come and stay at Camelot Castle soon. Good luck getting a room. There's so many freedom fighters here. You see, what Camelot Castle is really a slice of total normality right now. You know, other than a few, you know, what do we call them? Compliers. Many people here just, you know, we're just carrying on. And as you know, we respect everybody here. But good luck. Book in at reception, and it would be lovely to see you. And do make sure that you say hello. Christine Russ says, yes, of course, Atlantis existed. Ashley Amanda says yes. Chris Ram says, absolutely, what had existed is not in my understanding, but yes, of course. Oh, you're not from Greece, you're from Oxford, Boho Dogan. Well, there we go. Sorry about that. When you look at Earth as a jigsaw and join the USA, Africa, and Europe, you find a huge gap. That's very interesting, John. Gary Clark says, yes, I believe Atlantis existed off the coast of Ireland. We're talking about Atlantis. Did Atlantis exist? Underground caves in Ecuador filled with life-size pure crystal sculptures of every animal on Earth, from a fly to a mastodon. Wow. Jason Q has all the facts from a website. Noel Meehan says Camelot Castle is a calm place in a mad world, and I particularly like your icon, Noel, because that looks like one of Ted's paintings. Sandra says, yes, Atlantis did exist, probably on another dimension, but definitely interacted with our own dimensions. Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, did it actually exist as a physical location on Earth? Were there Atlanteans, you know, and did they live in Atlantis? John Harp Dalton says the Azores in the mid-Atlantic are said to have sand beaches many fathoms down, suggesting that they were high mountains surrounded by sea tens of thousands of years ago. Wow. There were giants. Terry Ann says there were giants. Well, you do come across some very, very, very interesting sculptures about this sort of thing. I don't know if the Atlanteans were giants. But it's interesting how many people watching this TV show believe that Atlantis was a real thing. And my feeling is I'm uncertain. I don't know whether Atlantis was a real thing. It's not an area I've particularly looked into, and I don't have any personal memory on the subject. I don't think I was ever in Atlantis. But, you know, it could be a blank spot in the old memory. You know, you do have blank spots in the memory. Obviously, I'm very interested in and I've taken a great interest in being able to restore one's own memory. And it's actually why I became a Scientologist, was to be able to restore my memory so I could remember where I was, and to have some sort of control over where I'm going. So somebody says here, check out Edgar Cayce on Atlantis. Rita Ann Carter says, a prehistoric Atlantis in the North Sea may have been abandoned after being hit by a I assume that's megaton tsunami. 8,200 years ago, the wave was generated by a catastrophic subsea landslide off the coast of Norway. Analysis suggests the tsunami overran Doggerland, a low-lying landmass that has since vanished beneath the waves. Wow. So, John Hart Dalton says, if there was a diaspora after Atlantis sunk, it might explain the pyramid structures found in South America, India and Egypt, different groups taking their cultural ideas with them. Well, it might well, John. It might well, give that type of connection there between people from, as the diaspora dispersed. You could definitely have that phenomenon. It does seem to me to be rather odd that you have pyramids in different places in seemingly disconnected cultures, but in life what I have found is things very often, who has found this, that in life things that seem to be disconnected very often turn out to be connected, and certainly it's always so interesting to contemplate, when you meet a new person, it's very rare that you don't know somebody in common with them. I don't know if you've ever had, you'll meet a brand new person. You think, well, I'm not going to have anything in common with this person. Lo and behold, they know 5 or 6 people that you know. And, the networks between human beings and the sharing of knowledge. One of the things I realized is that the entire planet is really a repository. It's like I actually view Earth like a bit of a spaceship. And all of us here are somewhat guardians of these vessels of knowledge, if you like. You could say that the human mind is a vessel of knowledge, and the spaceship is going through from where it is now to where it's going to go, and where it's been to where it is now. And it's very interesting. So John Hart Dalton says there is official history that we were developed from apes, and other far more credible histories of our spiritual origin. 100%, John. Who actually on here, I'd be interested, who here believes Charles Darwin and the idea of evolution, or who here takes that whole evolution theory with a bit of a pinch of salt? And you see, I've looked at it, and I looked at it mathematically. There aren't actually enough life cycles if we say that the mechanism of evolution is some type of sort of distortion of the DNA structures. But who really believes the religion that people are being taught in school now, which is sort of Darwinian evolution? They're even teaching that at Winchester College, where I went. And, we were taught that, natural selection, it was the key to a butterfly's wing. Well, of course, you've only got to inspect the average butterfly's wing and realize that the number of mutations that would have had to have occurred in order to arrive at that level of beauty far, far, far surpasses the number of life cycles possible over the period of time that life has existed on Earth. So there has to be another route. L. Ron Hubbard actually wrote a very, very interesting book called A History of Man. And those are his observations of where life has come from. And he opens it and he says this is an undiluted, or I'm not quoting exactly, but he said this is an unvarnished account of your last 67 trillion years. John Dalton, very knowledgeable on this subject, he said he only explained adaptation. that animals will develop differently in different environments, but he could not explain the origin of species, as they seem to emerge after a mysterious gap. Well, you're right, John. And Terry Ann says, we're not from monkeys, and if they're teaching us, then it is wrong. So this is what I get very, very worried about with my dear Caspian. Very, very worried that, because schools teach with such authority. And I don't know if you realise this, but, the recent palaver that our government has been engaging in. Did you notice how on the television, the first thing that they did is they set up medical authorities and authorities on viruses. Now, every country had their own go-to authority, and that was the first thing. And because we're so used to accepting information from authority, and somebody says, well, this fellow with several letters after his name is the authority on this subject. Well, as soon as somebody says, well, the authority says this, or the scientist says this, it's almost like there's a sort of an unconsciousness switch that goes off in the mind, and then everything that comes out of that quote-unquote authority's mouth is then gospel truth. It's a brainwashing mechanism. And if I could just recommend, I do recommend it a lot, but if you haven't read it, do read Dianetics. Because if you want to understand how to A, get unbrainwashed, and B, understand when somebody else is trying to brainwash you, Dianetics does hold the solution to that. It's a great book by L. Ron Hubbard, and I would thoroughly recommend that you read it. Plus, if you know anybody that is at all depressed and is being told to take drugs in any way to handle their depression, that is not the best solution. The best solution for depression is probably take a good walk and then sit down and read Dianetics. And you will find that depression evaporates very, very quickly. Also, get busy helping someone else. We're very fortunate and privileged in England. Nobody in England has a life that is, I would say, tough when you compare it to some of the lives that people are living in other countries. Go and try a few minutes in a Bangladeshi slum or down in Sao Paulo and see what it's like to live in one of their cardboard shanty shacks. What we feel sorry for ourselves sometimes in this country because things don't quite go the way that we want them to go, and there's nothing wrong with feeling a bit sorry for yourself, but it's very, very important if you want to break the cycle of depression. One of the best things I can advise you to do is go and help somebody that you can observe, just observably is not quite doing as well as you were doing, and just lend them a hand for a bit. And it's amazing how fast your victimhood and your depression, perks up a bit. And that is really what I would do. Dan Robbins says, A History of Man is also a great book. Absolutely right, it is. John Harp Dalton says, again, an authority has no authority if they do not serve the truth, and especially if they serve commercial enterprises, i.e. promoting drugs. John, you're right, and that is a good test of an authority. Who's paying the authority? We used to have a saying in California, qui bono, who wins? Because you have so many lawsuits flying around, and the first thing to check out in a lawsuit is who's going to benefit financially. You see somebody suing somebody, so important. And the same is true of all of these medical authorities, and I don't care who they are. Who wins? Because if somebody is profiting out of something, they have what we call a dog in the fight. And it's very important to be able to see through these things clearly. Terry Ann says TVs manifest depression. Absolutely right. John is absolutely right. He says Scientology, and John's not a Scientologist to my knowledge, but he says Scientology has battled for years against the drug companies who actually want everyone to become addicts of one thing or another. Too true. And, we keep fighting, John, as Scientologists. We keep informing people and letting people know that there is a solution to drug addiction, there is a solution to depression, and it doesn't involve taking more drugs. So Dan Robbins says, follow the money trail. Well, listen, the reason I got on this afternoon, I just jumped on here. I wanted to say how fabulous it is in Cornwall right now. Everybody is welcome. The crumpets are on sale again. The tarts are absolutely delicious down here. There's very few rooms available, but if you call now, you may get one of the last ones. And it would be lovely to see you. The weather down here is absolutely superb. And if you just feel like a little bit of a breather, just pop in for tea. It's always nice to see you. Always very pleasant. Your ideas here, even if they are completely different to ours, are more than welcome. You have a right as a human being to disagree with anybody. You have a right to disagree with me. You have a right even to disagree with my wife, which is a challenge, but you can have a go at that, and you can definitely disagree with my wife. You can even tell Ted that, Ted, some of your paintings are beautiful, but some of your paintings, Ted, are absolutely revolting. In fact, in Ted's case, it would do him the world of good, because he's very popular. He never hears anything but, Ted, your paintings are marvellous. So if you could all do me a favour when you turn up to Camelot, do tell Ted how revolting some of his paintings are, and it will do him the world of good. It doesn't do anybody any good to be agreed with all the time. So lovely to have you here. Do pop in for a nice cup of tea. The sun is shining, and I'm going to get outside because my son is building a new tree house, and I'm going to go and help him with that. Anyway, all the very best, and I will speak to you very, very soon. John, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We just have to keep on keeping on. There are millions on our side of this battle for truth. There are millions. We are in the majority. The fact that they're rigging the polls and they're rigging the media, they're making us all think that, we're not in the majority. We are in the majority. Because common sense, that's all we're really about. I'm not trying to persuade anybody to do anything. All I'm asking you to do is think for yourself. Look for yourself. Go and talk to people that you've never talked to before. The lovely thing about Camelot, by the way, is when we started it, Ted and I and Irina said, we're never going to create one more boutique hotel for the super rich. And I'll tell you why, because we've all been to them. You go to these places, the super rich sit around and they waffle to each other, or they sort of whisper to each other in the corner, and they never really talk to each other. They're lucky. They try and make friends with the waiter generally. And it's very, very dull. Here at Camelot, the most amazing thing is everybody talks to everybody. And the guests come along, and tonight we're having dinner with two guests that have popped along. And we believe in opening up the communication lines, opening up life, sharing ideas. So we are going to keep on keeping on, and hopefully we will see you all soon, and all the very best from here. I'm going to go and help Caspian with his treehouse.